Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio. And today, I know I'm going to say, I told you so. And I know you guys don't want to hear it, but I told you so. Theater owners blame Black Widow's box office collapse on Disney Plus. I called this back in my first Black Widow video. I believe I titled it, Scarlett Johansson Doesn't Plan to Return to the MCU After Black Widow. That anyone and everyone involved in this movie was going to look to shift the blame. The movie is going to fail because of sexism. It's going to fail because of the simultaneous release, etc., etc. I don't remember what I said verbatim, but does this surprise me that the theater owners are coming out and playing the blame game? No, because I do remember what I said by the end of that, though, is that it's, you know, the movie clearly cannot fail from just a bad release timing. You know, had this movie come out in like 2016, 2017 at the absolute latest, it might have been a smash hit. But no, it's not because of bad timing. It's because you, consumer, refuse to consume a shitty movie or a decent movie that came out at the wrong time. But anyway, before I tangent on for too long, let's just dig right into this article. The National Association of Theater Owners, aka NATO, which is a really, really bad name because I say NATO to anybody and everybody thinks everyone I say NATO to always thinks the military organization, not the National Association of Theater Owners. So get back to it. The National Association of Theater Owners believe that Disney Plus is responsible for Black Widow's box office collapse due to their decision to stream the film on their platform immediately upon its release. Black Widow hit both theaters and Disney Plus on July 9th, making it the first MCU film of Phase 4, as well as the very first MCU film to test dual release in theaters and on Disney Plus. Meanwhile, it was also the first MCU release following the COVID-19 pandemic, which shut down many theaters and film productions during 2020. Black Widow started off strong, garnering $80 million in theatrical revenue. That's not bad, given the present time and given that theaters are still operating on limited seating. In scoring the biggest box office opening of the pandemic, however, after its record-breaking opening, Black Widow dropped 67% at the box office during its second weekend. The sharp drop made it the second largest weekend box office decline of any MCU film. In some ways, the drop was expected, as Black Widow was Disney's way of testing the waters with Disney Plus and the coronavirus pandemic. However, it was still anticipated to bring crowds back to the theaters, and the theaters are understandably concerned about this box office drop and the reasons behind it. Again, I do believe that there are a lot more factors behind a box office drop. You know, maybe the reviews got out, maybe it wasn't nearly as good, you know, with the word of mouth. And also what this article never ever brings up is the MCU shows. You know, you just had, I remember Loki was actually airing during this time. So what if this is a scenario where the Disney Plus Marvel shows are now starting to cannibalize the movies a bit? You know, that in and of itself could be another factor. But no. It's because of the simultaneous release on both streaming and in theaters, according to theater owners. As reported by The Hollywood Reporter, NATO criticized Disney Plus for releasing Black Widow on their streaming service on its opening weekend, attributing that decision to the film's box office collapse. NATO explained that while Disney may count its streaming revenue as a success, it is damaging the theater business that is still greatly struggling and in need of recovery after the pandemic. I hate to break it to you. I hate to break it to the theaters, but Disney did not give two shits about the movie theaters and all the shit they were pulling. I remember when this was just prior to The Last Jedi coming out, and Disney wanted something like 65% of the box office revenue, and they wanted The Last Jedi to play for 4 weeks guaranteed in their largest theaters. And any theater that didn't comply with that had to give Disney 70% of the box office take. Does anybody remember that? Because I do. Back to the article, they blame Disney Plus for Black Widow's disappointing performance and say that simultaneous releases should be left behind with the pandemic era. NATO also brought up the issue of piracy on Disney Plus, questioning just how much revenue will be lost from it. And I am going to put up their entire statement. I am also going to read it word for word right here. This is what NATO said, quote, "Despite assertions that this pandemic-era improvised release strategy was a success for Disney and the simultaneous release model, it demonstrates that an exclusive theatrical release means more revenue for all stakeholders in every cycle of the movie's life. The many questions raised by Disney's limited release of streaming data opening weekend are being rapidly answered by Black Widow's disappointing and anomalous performance. The most important answer is that simultaneous release is a pandemic-era artifact that should be left to history with the pandemic itself. One can assume the family-oriented Disney Plus household is larger. How much? How much password sharing is there among Disney Plus subscribers? Combined with the lost theatrical revenue and foregone traditional PVOD revenue, the answer to these questions will show that simultaneous release costs Disney money in revenue per viewer over the life of the film. Piracy no doubt further affected Black Widow's performance and will affect its future performance in international markets where it is yet to open. Pristine digital copies became available within minutes of release on Disney+. Black Widow was the most torrented movie for the week ending in July 12th. End quote. That part doesn't surprise me because, now personally, you can disagree with this all you want, but there are many, many people in this world that truly believe that once something hits the internet, it becomes free. And you're never going to change people's minds on that. But getting back to the article, which we only have a couple of more paragraphs. While Black Widow's box office performance is consistent with the lower pandemic performances, it cannot be denied that Disney Plus did hurt its theatrical release. Like I said, I think the simultaneous release plays a part in the damage, but it's not the end-all be-all like they want you to believe. For the first time, many were able to watch a much-anticipated MCU film on its release date from the comfort of their own home. I highly doubt that it was much anticipated outside of the hardcore fans, because I know a lot of people were commenting that, this was probably going to be a decent movie, but clearly released at the wrong time, given that this movie takes place after Captain America Civil War, but it's releasing after Endgame, where, spoiler alert, Black Widow dies in that one. So getting back to the article, while the film did cost $30 on Disney+, it may not be such a steep cost in the face of password sharing. Password sharing is widespread on streaming services, meaning that one individual can buy the film for $30 and share it with countless other family members and friends who can then watch the film at no cost, or those same people can go surfing the internet with their sales masks while singing "Yo Ho Ho, a certain person's life for me," and get it that way. Just saying, not advocating for it, but just saying some people obviously did that. Meanwhile, as NATO pointed out, a pristine digital copy of Black Widow was available within minutes of its release, making it an easy target for piracy. There you fucking go. Overall, it is difficult to say if the box office collapse can be attributed to Disney Plus or to the pandemic. It's likely a mixture of both. But you're not throwing in the fact that, even if this movie came out in April of 2020, it was still going to be a movie that was 4 years too late. So how many people were genuinely excited? We don't truly know, because movie theaters are operating at limited capacity, so there's only so much money that a movie can make in theaters right now. And Disney does not have to be forthcoming with its streaming revenue, so truly, we don't know how successful Black Widow, truly is, unless if Disney releases those, premiere access numbers, which they're probably not going to do. I know they did it for opening weekend, but there's no guarantee that they're going to show the 3 or 4 week revenue. So is Black Widow a success? We truly don't know. Back to the article. However, if Black Widow had released solely theatrically in the midst of the continued pandemic concerns, would that have hurt its performance even more? Theaters are facing unprecedented times due to the pandemic, and it will take time to adjust and recover. However, as streaming services gain more popularity, they do need to consider the impact they have theatrically and how that shift in revenue affects stakeholders in the business. Disney Plus has indicated it will return to traditional theatrical releases when the pandemic subsides, but the issues that NATO raised extend beyond Black Widow's release and need to be considered as Disney continues growing their streaming services, and that is the end of the article. Now, back when I first started a little series called TMRP, which, you know, a lot of these videos kind of spun off of, instead of, you know, labeling them all as TMRP, I've dropped the label. I'm thinking about bringing it back. I just don't know how I'm going to do it. But the second episode of TMRP that I ever recorded was, I titled that one, The Death of the Blockbuster. And I basically went in and I basically made the argument that the market for these $200 million movies is just simply not there anymore. Now, I don't want to retread over old ground. If you're watching this on BitChute or Odyssey, it is more than likely on the channel. You're just going to have to, you know, search through the channel. You're just going to have to manually search through the channel, unfortunately. If you're watching this on YouTube, I will try to put a card to that very upload, given that it's on my older channel and I had to restart. But essentially, in that video, I make the case that, you know, the industry's shifting toward you're either making a $200 million movie or a $20 million movie, and no in between was going to kill the industry more in the long run. COVID did not help. COVID did not help the problem that the industry was facing. The only thing it did was accelerate the inevitable. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it right here before I drag this out for longer than I need to be. Thanks so much for sticking around for this long if you have done so. And as you guys know, I am terrible at ending these, so I will just see you guys next time.